Please be seated. So have you ever wondered what the prophet Isaiah would have been like as a commencement speaker? I'll take that as a no. It's actually not so hard to imagine the old guy ascending the dais in his cap and gown, with however many stripes prophets get to wear on their sleeves, and saying something like, President Johnson, distinguished faculty and staff, class of 2018, it is an honor to be addressing you all today. I come bearing these words of comfort and encouragement. We're all going to die. You're not really that big a deal. And none of us really knows what's going on in this life anyway. So congratulations. Go Panthers. For this, we would applaud politely and present it with an honorary degree. All right, so maybe Isaiah chapter 40 was not originally conceived as a commencement address. But to any of us who's sat through one in which we've been told that we can do whatever we set our minds to do in this life and be whoever we want to be, it makes for a very strange form of encouragement. But that's exactly what it claims to be, encouragement. Comfort, oh comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem. That's how chapter 40 begins. Before long, it's that voice crying out in the wilderness, quoted years later by John the Baptist, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Valleys will be lifted up, mountains and hills made low. The glory of the Lord will be revealed. And all of that is encouraging enough. But the very next thing that voice cries is, all people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. And just a little further on into the chapter comes our reading for today. Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is God who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. Hearing this, apparently, we're supposed to feel comfort. We're supposed to feel hopeful because we're grasshoppers from God's perspective. Because we are very small creatures with very short lives who don't know much of anything about the universe that spreads out around us. Is it possible that there really is a kind of comfort in accepting such a humble view of ourselves? Well, let's humor the old prophet and entertain the idea that there is, every single commencement address you've ever heard notwithstanding. We should remember that Isaiah would have been writing to a discouraged and a beat-down people. They were living in exile in Babylon. Very little in their lives would have been within their control. But rather than providing strategies for bettering themselves or taking charge of their situation, Isaiah gets their heads spinning off out in wonder toward the mystery of creation and the grandeur of God. He doesn't even say, don't worry, folks, everything will be made right in heaven. He doesn't say that. He says, learn to rest in your mortality. In fact, he actually says there is a great, great power in this. A strength, he says, that's like mounting up with eagle's wings. All of this runs so counter to the project of my own life. Since childhood, I've thought the whole point of growing up was to know a little bit more each year, to be in control of a little bit more of the world, to be a little more important, a little less befuddled by things. This universe might remain a mystery on some level, but it's not like we keep on thinking there are trolls under our beds or chariots in the stars. Meaningful progress and understanding really can be made. Similarly, as a species, we human beings have figured out that actually God does not sit above the circle of the earth, as Isaiah described. We've been to space. There's no watery chaos and above a dome of sky. There's a solar system and a universe and more universes, maybe multiverses. We've made some pretty impressive strides in understanding since Isaiah's time, thank you very much. And I, for one, am especially glad to be alive after the kinks in general anesthesia and central heating got worked out. but for all the thrill of human progress and the rush of knowing that we are checking off more and more of the universe's mysteries by the day, by the year, there really is a kind of comfort and a strength that come only from making peace with all that we don't know and how small these lives of ours really are. So if you've forgotten every commencement address you've ever heard, do you remember when your drama class performed Thornton Wilder's Our Town? Because there's a lovely exchange in it between young Rebecca Gibbs and her older brother George. Rebecca says this, she says, "I never told you about the letter Jane Crawford got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. It said, Jane Crawford, the Crawford Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, the United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God." That's what it said on the envelope, and the postman brought it to her just the same. There's a kind of wisdom in that little girl's amazement that a letter addressed like James Crawford's was could find its way all the way to her mailbox. Feeling small can actually be a sense of connection to the vastness of God's creation, can't it? Humility and human have the same root, you know. Humus, soil, earth. Maybe humility is simply grounding our lives in what is. And might there be a strength in this groundedness that will not come to us any other way? A wise man once said, "The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical. It is the power of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, a snuffed-out candle." To sense that behind anything that can be experienced, there is something that our minds cannot grasp, whose beauty and sublimity reaches us only indirectly. This is religiousness. Believe it or not, that quote was not made by the Dalai Lama or Deepak Chopra. It was Albert Einstein. The guy who demystified as much of this universe as anybody said that anyone who's never been stunned into wonder about all that we'll never understand is like a snuffed-out candle. You and I probably associate being snuffed out and powerless with a lack of confidence, not humility. But Einstein said your life will throw no light or heat into this world until you experience its smallness. Seems little Rebecca's wonder was the beginning of a strength that's not gotten at any other way. And my hunch is that these are days when we especially need to hear about the healing force of humility, about how little we know and how small our lives really are. When I turn on the news, no one seems to be talking about what a healthy consumer humility index might be, do they? It's confidence, we think, that makes the world go round. But it's not, says Isaiah. Your confidence actually has nothing to do with the rotation of the earth. Please learn to rest in this very, very good news for us all. Because it also means that we grasshoppers are all in this life together. It means that however impressive our accomplishments might seem from way down here, well, from the other end of the address on Jane Crawford's letter, they're pretty much indistinguishable from the saddest failure of a life we can imagine, aren't they? Compassion and empathy and maybe some patience with one another might be among the fruits of learning Isaiah's humility. But in the end, what the prophet most wants us to know is that seeing our lives as humbler in scale, shorter in span, roughly grasshopper-sized, if you will, but held within the vastness of God, does not make us more sheepish or weaker or more passive. It is actually the source of strength and renewal we are looking for everywhere else in this life except in humility. It is still how God gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, says the prophet, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk will not faint.